Yeah. Blackjack. Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Yeah. Blackjack. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button notification. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and also tell a friend. But more importantly, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and hit the bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to talk about this because two things really. So I've been asked on numerous occasions, do you think that Reggie Wright Jr. and Suge Knight set up Tupac to get Tupac killed? Absolutely, positively not. The Biggie situation, I don't really have any information on that from that perspective, but I'm going to give you a little bit about that also. But check this out. The fact of the matter is Suge Knight absolutely, positively, 100% had nothing to do with Tupac being killed. Nothing. As you know, by most people who know about this situation, Suge was in the car with him. There would have been easier ways to do that if that were the case than to be in the car with Tupac. For those who say, oh, he had the perfect alibi by being there and some kind of sharpshooter or some kind of this, that, and the other, it's simply not true. There were easier ways. If he wanted to do something like that, that he could have done that, right? And so people also say that Suge Knight had a insurance policy on Tupac, right? Which also was not true. Suge didn't even have a contract on Tupac. How could he have an insurance policy on Tupac? Tupac would need to sign off on something like that, or that would have to be included in a recording agreement, right? Which I've shown you guys time after time again that Suge Knight did not have. The only agreement that they had in effect was the one that David Kenner had wrote up in regards to it was a handwritten agreement, right? And that was not what you would call a true legal and binding agreement from the perspective of having a record contract like Interscope had with Tupac, right? So that's not true. Suge Knight did not have a $50 million insurance policy on Tupac. That's simply factually not true. Also, the only person that I was aware of that had an insurance policy on Tupac, or an insurance policy at all, that was the beneficiary of an insurance policy that Tupac had, was his sister. And I posted that the insurance policy paper in regards to that. I've posted that to show you what that was a while ago, but here it is again. And so I'm just trying to wipe away all of these created motives of Suge Knight to have Tupac killed and be in the car with him at the same time, right? Because a lot of people have come up with these notions and these formulas and these reasons why, and you know, Russell Poole at one time, you know, like I said, I had talked to Russell Poole when I was going for a court case, a federal copyright case, and Russell Poole actually worked at the courthouse. He was one of those courthouse security guards. When you come into the courthouse, they tell you to put your keys and all of that in a little bucket and stuff like that. He was one of those guys. And I said, yo, you the police officer? He was like, yeah, you know. And I told him that I knew Tupac and so on and so forth. And he was like, oh yeah, you know, Suge Knight and set Tupac up. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? You know what I mean? He was really truly overzealous about what that situation was and what he thought it was. And he also mentioned Biggie, but he was more on the Tupac situation. And I was like, no, that didn't happen. And we talked, and like I said, we talked for a minute, and like I said, and so he had his particular point of view, or should I say narrative about that, which was not true. And later on, I believe he apologized for saying those things because they simply weren't true. And so when we get into that area of, did Suge set up Tupac, the answer is absolutely positively not. Another thing, Suge had too much to lose from that perspective, because what most people don't understand is when Tupac came over to Death Row, Interscope, or should I say, I'm sorry, Warner Brothers gave Suge Knight a new publishing deal for like $4 million. So everything that Tupac was going to do, or everything that he did basically on All Eyes on Me, Machiavelli, and the albums that would precede that, right? Suge would get a piece of the publishing on that record, on those records. You understand what I'm saying? By means of the producers that he had signed, that he agreed, or they agreed to give a piece of their publishing to the situation, or whatever situations that he had negotiated in regards to publishing was concerned, as the publishing was concerned. But so that part right there, that is a positive side. That is a motive not to have Tupac harmed or hurt, because the money that you stand to make is substantial on the publishing side, and that money is made in perpetuity until you die and you pass it on to your family and so on and so forth. So you got to understand, a lot of people don't really understand that. And they say, well, then you have the people that come in and say, well, wouldn't he have made more money if Tupac was dead? Absolutely not. He would have made more money with Tupac if Tupac had still been alive, because the fact of the matter is art keeps on being created. And for whatever business situation that him and Tupac may have had some differences on, you would hope that they can pan that out. If not, then so be it, right? Once again, you're going to have the people who come in and say, well, I just think that, you got to understand the facts behind why that wouldn't be so. Number one, he was in the car with him. No. Number two, the publishing revenue that he stood to make from Tupac, All Eyes on Me alone, basically paid for the $4 million that Warner Brothers gave Suge in that publishing deal, right? All Eyes on Me paid that back alone. You understand what I'm saying? So now, when we talk about everything else that came into play, Tupac, him doing movies and so on and so forth, like I told you guys, Tupac was going to do his own thing, and Tupac was doing his own thing prior to dealing with Suge, like I say, without the Gutter Records. So, absolutely, positively not. Suge did not have nothing to do with Tupac being killed. The thing I think people miss out on is the fact that what made the situation look so foggy and so a suspect, if you will, is Suge should have never hired Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. He should have never did the homeboy security thing. You know what I mean? Or, because that right there is an inherent conflict of interest. We buddies, we friends, we knew each other growing up. Come on, work for me. How do we now separate the business side from the personal side without somebody catching feelings, right? As you've heard Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. allude to, he basically said that when he found out that Tupac had wrote a letter one time about him firing him, something about the Keyshawn Johnson party at the House of Blues or something like that, the draft party, he told Suge, and Suge allegedly told him, Tupac don't pay you, I do. So don't worry about that, right? So now, once again, when it came down to the fact where Tupac and that letter did go out, because Frank Alexander talked about that.
His new label was going to be Machiavelli Records. It already made up the T-shirts. I have a T-shirt to this day of Machiavelli Records. that was going to be his new record label. Euthanasia was going to be his new company. He was leaving Death Row. That's why he called an audit. About a week later, my homeboy that I told you was the office manager, he called me up and he said, Frank, like, you're getting fired. I was like, what? Like, yeah, you're getting fired. I go, what are you talking about? Like, man, Tupac just sent a letter. I got it right here. He goes, I'll make a copy of it and give it to you. He goes, but I got a letter right here that he no longer is requesting right-way security for his security. I was like, are you serious? Like, yeah. So I said, get the letter from you idle in the morning. Yeah, get it tomorrow. I'll give it to you. I read the letter. Sure enough, his signature no longer requested security. So obviously,
is that the same time that he allegedly fired David Kenner as his lawyer?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you imagine the feelings, the disdain, the hatred that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had for Tupac at that particular time? You're talking about one of the number one hip hop or artists in the world at that time. And the gravy train was ripe. You had stuffing, you had turkey, you had gravy, you had all of this in the fixings of being able to build Interscope from a protective standpoint by way of Death Row and be paid for securing Tupac. So when Tupac fired Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., when he fired him, right, you can imagine what a person feels. Some people feel getting fired from a regular job. And if you were making any type of substantial income from the protection of Tupac Shakur, you can imagine how he felt. Because Suge wasn't in charge of that. Tupac could call that shot and say, I don't want him as my security no more. And he did so, right? And so now you have this conflict of interest, because now we in Vegas, and Suge said that, like, yo, send me more officers. Send me more security guards, to protect Pac, to 662, from 662, to the MGM Grand or to Suge's house or wherever he wanted them at that time, right? And it was a recipe for disaster. It was a recipe for disaster. Just like you heard the alleged letter with Kevin Hackey, when he basically said that right-way security in Vegas did not have any permits for weapons or did not have guard permits, period. So you got to ask yourself, what kind of security company was this? Right? So a lot of people get it messed up and they say, well, do you think, Suge and Reggie? No. Suge wouldn't have nothing to do with Reggie from that standpoint. Reggie wanted Suge's spot. He's sitting there watching Suge spend all of these millions of dollars and so on and so forth. And, the jealousy, and then now Tupac done fired him, So these feelings arise. And so therefore you have a recipe for disaster. And the disaster is what happened in Las Vegas, period. So we can sit here and go over and over and over it again. You can sit there and talk to your friends, be like, I believe Suge. No, Suge Knight is 100% innocent of that situation involved with the murder of Tupac Shakur. Now, the Biggie situation, like I said, I don't really know anything about that. But I've heard various people talk about that. And I'll get back to that. Your boy DELRAY, straight game.